Hey, what's up, Facebook? What's up, brothers? Welcome to Tuesday Thoughts with Mike, your mentor. Coming at you a little bit earlier today because we got family movie night tonight. I think we're going to see Pets 2. Is that what it's called? I don't know, something like that. So the girls get to pick this time. So it should be fun. So I just wanted to get this done because we're going here at 8, and I figured you'd rather have it be early than like 11:30 at night. So I appreciate you guys tuning in. Appreciate you if you're watching the replay. So if you're new to this page, quick introduction. My name is Mike King, aka Mike the Mentor. A little background. I grew up uh, without a father until the age of 10. He was in and out of prison 3 separate times. Then at age 15, or at age 10 after that, he disappeared, and then he came back on the scene at age 15. Lasted a couple of months in our house until him and my mom had a huge blowout, and he showed up high in our front yard, uh, tore his shirt off, picked up a giant rock, threw it through the front window of our door, screaming obscenities at my mom, and my mom had no choice but to call the police. He got scared that he might go back to jail or prison, and took off in his truck, and then he disappeared, and then I didn't see him again or hear from him really again until I was 18 and graduated from high school, and that set into motion for the next 6 years a reoccurring theme of him showing up every 2 years at a major event on my life, apologizing and saying that he would be there for us, only to disappear again. And the final one was after I graduated from college. He had been diagnosed with stage 4 liver cancer, and he died shortly after that. So, as you can imagine, not growing up, not growing up with a father in your major developmental years as a boy, uh, the things that can do to you, leave you with low self confidence, feelings of abandonment and rejection. I believe, oh, I believe in it. It seems to be true in my experience, and I've yet to see a case where it hasn't. That we all have the same core thing in our being, and that is to be chosen, right? Chosen by somebody else. And as we're kids, that's played out by being chosen by our parents. After that, it's in our adolescence, it's being chosen by the opposite sex, and then that carries over into adulthood as we want to be chosen by our significant other. And then as we go from there, we want to be chosen by our kids, right? There's this huge need inside of all of us to be chosen, chosen by our Creator. And when things don't go right in those developmental years, those leave huge wounds or huge holes in our heart that we try to fill through a multitude of different things, whether that's drugs, alcohol, pornography, being a workaholic, guilty, uh, a multitude of different vices that we try to fill those wounds with. And I had a lot of those growing up because of the abandonment and rejection that I felt from my father. And my primary way of soothing that was chasing after girls, and even into my later years of being a young adult, chasing after women. Um, Personally, I don't think not to uh, uh, in an abusive way, but just trying to meet a legitimate need in an illegitimate way. Um, so I say all that to say the only thing that kept me throughout all those, or I shouldn't say the only thing, but some of the major things that kept me from really going off the deep end with everything that I faced growing up, from my dad being gone, to my brother committing suicide, to finally my dad dying, and having to find out what it means to be a man, what it looks like to be a responsible husband, and then what it looks like to be a responsible father. To figure out all those things almost on my own. And I say almost on my own because in my life I was very fortunate for two things. One, God's grace on my life. If it wasn't for Him, I wouldn't be here. But two, the mentors that were placed strategically in my life, whether I realized it or not. So mentors that I had in books, biographies that I would read about people and the trials and the tribulations that they would go through and overcome to better their lives. How, they made a choice to do something to improve their life, not just say woe is me and this is the deck I've been dealt, right? Um, I'm a huge believer in that a lot of what you get out of life is a result of what you put in, and what you do about the situation that you're currently in. Are you going to be content with that, or are you going to work to change that and make that different? And that can look like a multitude of things. And two, I had mentors physically that came alongside me in the form of coaches, in the form of uh, other boys that I was hanging out with, their fathers, right? Like speaking words to me, calling things out in me, saying, hey, you're really good at this, or I admire your leadership in this area. Just speaking truth to me as well. And it wasn't just men; it was just women as well. I remember one time my neighbor being over there, and we were throwing dirt at each other, and I was just cussing up a storm. And the mom came out, and she uh, was like, "Michael King, is that your mouth? You kiss your mom with that mouth?" And just basically calling me to task and saying that I was better than that, and I didn't need to use those words to express myself, and to make an impression like I was, such a negative impression by acting like that. And that always stuck with me, right? Because, not only did she hold me accountable, but she took it a step further. It's one thing to hold somebody accountable, right? And then you have two choices. You can hold them accountable, and then you can shame them, which makes them go lower, or you can call them to a higher calling on their life and speak life and speak vision into their lives, and raise the bar. And that's what she did. She raised the bar for me, and I wanted to raise my game, so to speak, to meet that new bar. So I had all these people, right, planting these seeds in me, and sometimes those seeds stuck and took root right away, and sometimes those seeds didn't come to fruition and bloom until years later. So this page is a culmination of all that in my attempt to give back the wisdom that has been sowed in me to other people, because you don't know what you don't know. And wisdom knows no bias. It has no prejudice. Doesn't care if you're black, white, Native American, Hispanic, Chinese, whatever. Doesn't care if you're tall, short, if you have money, you don't have money. It knows no bounds. So that's what this page is about, in a nutshell. And I try to be as open and vulnerable as I can while honoring the stories and the other people that are a part of my story. So tonight on Tuesday Thoughts, and that's where we talk about how we can be better men, right? How we can be better husbands, better fathers. I want to talk about how do you get your kids to pretty much tell you anything. So this is kind of like my philosophy on parenting, so to speak, based on what my own experience and what I think, right? So, like anything that I tell you guys, one, use wisdom. Two, submit it to God, and He'll confirm it, add to it, whatever. He'll speak to you about it. So just use that discernment and let it be what it may be. So I got 3 points that I want to make here, real quick, and then we'll call it a day. So the first one is, if you want to get your kids to talk about anything with you, and you want to build that relationship with them, so that they can trust you and come to you with hard things. The main thing, and I'll just reiterate this, is use wisdom, right? Use wisdom about how you're going to talk to your kids about a delicate subject, or how much you're going to share with them. It all comes down to wisdom. that could mean, you got to pray about it and then go back to the situation or go back to the talk. It might not demand an immediate word. The right word at the wrong time uh, brings about the wrong result. But the right word at the right time brings about the right result. Uh, and that's very, very important. So I'll give you an example. My son, uh, we were living in Chicago, and he was in, I think, first, maybe second grade, no higher than second grade. And I picked him up from school one day, and he asked me, why was so and so laying on top of so and so after or before school ended. My son's always been very mature for his age, so and I had been thinking about this, when would be the start of the appropriate time to start talking to him about the opposite sex and everything that comes along with that, right? And I had discerned that that was an appropriate time to start that story. So with my own son, given his maturity, I chose to share a lot of that with him, and a lot of those details with him about that, and he was able to handle that because, one, I knew how mature he was, and two, I had discerned that was the right time. So the second thing that I think will get your kids to open up to you and to tell you things is to explain to them why, right? This is a huge pet peeve of mine growing up with a lot of adults, is they would tell you not to do something, but they would never explain why. Like, perfect example of this goes back again to sex. Like, they would say, you don't have sex because that's what it says in the Bible, or that's just the way it is. You don't do it before you're married, right? Now, granted, they were the people in my life that were sharing that with me were trying to keep me from, I don't want to say making a mistake. They were trying to keep me from something that some things that I didn't realize. But at the same time, they fell short because while I wanted to listen to them, it didn't fully give me everything that I needed, so that when I found myself in these temptation or these situations to have sex outside of marriage, um, I did it. I you know I think, had I known what I know now, well, I know if I had known what I know now then, right? That's a story of life. I wouldn't have done that for me personally, because that's the only gift that you can give to one person one time. And here I am, I got married to my wife, and I have to come to my wife with, people say, experience, right? Okay. A good picture of this is if you got 10 people in a circle, and you started with person number one, and you were the 10th person, or I'm sorry, you were the 9th person, and the 10th person was your wife. So the first person is the first person you sleep with, and you pass this cup around, and you spit in this cup, and then you pass it around the circle, right? Each person that you've been with. Then finally the cup gets back to you, and you have to take that cup, and then you have to turn to your wife, and you have to say, hey, I want to marry you. I want to give you my best. Here is my best. And you pass them that cup full of everybody else's stuff. And you say, this is how much you meant to me. You meant so much to me that I went out and shared myself with all these other people so that I could bring all that to you. Here you go. You can agree with me or disagree with me, but that's just it's the way I think about it now, and that's the way that I share these things when I talk to younger kids about that, right? And that's one of the reasons why I feel that you should wait. But that was never a conversation when I was a kid growing up. It was, you don't do it because it says this. And I can understand why some adults said that, but for me, like, I'm a very curious person. I would always ask why. I'd always want to know stuff, and I think for some adults, they found that, I don't know, intimidating, or like I was maybe coming against their authority, and really that it wasn't that at all. And I think today's generation, more than ever, they want to know why. Why are things? They want to know, in a world where there's very little truth, or the appearance of truth, they want to know why. They want that truth. And if we're not giving it to them, okay, then they have two choices. They either go out there and get that truth by experiencing that stuff for themselves, and the consequences that come with it, whatever those consequences may be, good or positive, right? Because in this world, you're free to make all the choices you want. But what you're not free is to determine the consequences that come with those choices. So finally, the third thing that I want to suggest, if you want your kids to open up to you, is just be real, right? This whole I'm the adult, you're the child, like there's a time and a place for that, but in most of the conversations that I find myself having with my kids, right, like, one, they want to know that you care, right? And not just about caring about the rules or the authority that you have, but actually caring about them. And I think that's where the explaining why also ties into this, right? They're not mutually exclusive, right? In order for you to, like, explaining why is a part of you being real with them, and I do that with my kids, right? And remember, wisdom is the overarching umbrella which all this stuff falls under. So using that wisdom and explaining why to my kids, whether it's talking about drugs or talking about sex or talking about strangers or whatever age appropriate things that you need to talk to them about, is being real and sharing my real life experiences with those things with them, based on that wisdom umbrella, and we're not perfect, me and my wife, in raising our kids, but I think that we can say that we have a great relationship with our kids, and that they do come and they tell us stuff, and they do talk to us about tough stuff. My son's come to me, and I'm not saying this to brag, I'm just saying this as an example to encourage you, in maybe your parenting style or how you relate to your kids. And don't get me wrong, like, as an adult, I don't think that it's your job to be your kid's best friend. No way, no way. But at the same time, you want there to be a path or an opportunity. Yeah, I know she does, Arthur. She loves being in the video. That you create this path of this opportunity for there to be that open that open dialect. And there's been numerous times that my son's come to me, and he wants to talk to me about something hard, so he'll ask me to take a drive with him, and we'll drive around, whether for an hour, 2 hours, sometimes 3 hours, and get to talking about this stuff that he's dealing with, or this tough stuff that these questions kids have, and that they come up with, and that's just awesome to know that my son can trust me enough to come to me with that stuff and know that I'm going to speak to him about that in an objective way, and in two, in a way that he knows I have his best interest in mind, that I'm going to protect his heart, right? Because that's really what it's about, it's protecting his heart. And if it's something that he hasn't experienced, right, because I'm bringing more knowledge to the situation than him, that's where explaining the why and being real comes with him, and painting this picture and letting him know, these are some of the things that can happen when you make X, Y, or Z decisions that you might not realize, right? Pointing out the potholes, pointing out the bumps in the road. So that's it for tonight. Just wanted to share those 3 things with you guys real quick for tonight's Tuesday Thoughts. I'm definitely interested to know anybody's thoughts or comments on how you guys approach these conversations in raising your kids. So feel free to comment below or to ping me and let me know what's on your mind. Keep sharing these videos. Keep liking these videos. As we get closer to Father's Day, there will be something that I'll be able to share with you guys that's a result of you guys helping me just get this stuff out, right, to make our world a better place and to make manhood a respectable thing again, right? To bring honor back to being a man, which I'm really extremely passionate about, in helping guys navigate what that looks like. So thank you guys. I love you guys, and we'll see you tomorrow for Wisdom Wednesday. Good night.